Okay, I think I'm live at least. Now I just have to give you guys some pins here. Spotlight for everyone. That's spotlight. That's spotlight. Okay, we are 100% live, I'm pretty sure, on YouTube right now, or this would be a giant waste of time. I'm Ed Sullivan of the Diplomats. You here in the normal office of Ed Sullivan. This is what it looks like. This is me,
wow.
being professional. Okay, so we have here, some of the greatest extended deadline players in the world, as well as Riaz. Talk about season 7 semifinals to reveal the boards. I'm going to talk about who's on the show. Then I'm going to turn it over to Riaz, and we're going to go over and reveal each board. I don't even know each board because I haven't looked at the slides Riaz sent me. But here we go. First, Riaz. I don't know what his role is with Nexus anymore, but he's certainly running this tournament. He ran the preliminary rounds. He was a season 6 finalist in Nexus where, well, he lost to our second person on the show here, Village Idiot, who was first in last year's season 6 finals, has been a season Nexus finalist, I think three times, winning it once. And then we have Conk, Jordan. What's the other name you got?
I think that's it.
Falky. And then there's one other one I can't remember. It always changes. Anyways, we have Jordan here, who's been in multiple Nexus finals. I'm not sure. I think to memory serves only one in which he did not get eliminated. And that's only because he dotted Greg at the end just to make himself feel better about himself.
Yeah, I've got an average finishing center count of about 1.2.
Okay. All right, we're going to start off just before we go. Greg, Jordan, who's better between the two of you? Who's going to win the ultimate match?
I think it's only fair it's Jordan's turn.
I mean, if only there were an objective rating system on Nexus or Play Diplomacy to answer that question.
All right. Riaz, as our tournament director, Speedboat King, player of extended deadlines. I'm going to share the screen now. Let's see here.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
And we're going to talk about how people got to the finals, and say whatever you want to say.
All right. Well, since everybody's captive right now, might as well talk about, for the semifinalists, how you get to the finals. Well, in several tournaments, it's all about whoever has the highest 7 scores. In our tournament, it's not. You do not, just because you have a highest score does not mean that you advance to the finals. But if you are a sole board topper on your board, you're guaranteed to make the finals. Where that comes into play, where these two items comes into play, is if you're in a shared board top, then that opens the door for the next highest score to advance. So I've got 2 scenarios here for you. In the first one, you can see there's a 17-17 draw on board B, but because only one of the 2 of them will make it, you use a tiebreaker to see which one was the higher ranked player, because there was a sole board topper on every other board. So the opportunity here to metagame to try to skip ahead of somebody else on another board is much more difficult. And there's a second scenario here where there were actually 2 boards, board B and board D, where there was a shared board top. And in this case, the board D people, they had a much lower score. And as a result, the 2 people from board B actually advanced to the finals. So basically, the long and short of it is, be the sole board topper on your board to advance to the finals. You're guaranteed. Otherwise, it's open to the next highest score.
Okay, Riaz, a couple questions. One is, I participated in the, I don't know, minor league games to get into the semifinals. Some of, or at least Greg didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that. Explain to some people that they will be in the semifinals despite not having played at all this year.
Yes, so that was actually a decision from last year that we chose to honor, and it was an opportunity to give a little bit more incentive to people who perhaps they were still in the semifinal games, but their chances of advancing to the finals were not there. Is we said, okay, well, the top 21 have the option, should they choose to take it, to skip towards the semifinals. I've been talking to, I'm acting tournament director. There's a new tournament director who's coming in, and it seems that based on the majority of feedback that this is something that made a lot of sense to continue.
Okay, the second question is, which I think is a controversial decision, but you made it, so you're going to have to justify it. The preliminary rounds were all played anonymously, and having played in both, I was only really able to snuff out one or two people just based on writing style. These are all played non-anonymously, so everyone's going to know everyone else's history in the tournament. And sometimes I'm a little worried that may lead to, equity concerns. Oh, so-and-so's been there, or so-and-so's never been there, and that take over the game. Give us your thinking on why these are non-anonymous.
Well, the first part of that is we couldn't go full anon because of the fact that we need to publish a reason why boards were seeded and populated in a certain way. Otherwise, it's completely hidden. We want to keep everything open to everybody and share the process that was involved with that. And the second part of that is, that's an added challenge to the best players. The finalists may actually get targeted, but if they're able to make the finals, then that is really a testament to their skill level. And no matter what tournament you're in, whenever it's public who's playing, the bigger personalities, the more well-known players, some people are going to really want to work with them just for the experience, and other people are going to see them as a threat and try to get rid of them as quickly as they can. But that's diplomacy.
All right. And then lastly, a quick little look at the preliminary round trends that we saw. I love that off-stream score. I wonder who got that. But what really shocked me was the high scores for Turkey and the low score for Germany. Greg, Jordan, if either of you have thoughts as the two best online players in the world, what happened here, let us know. Any thoughts?
I mean, I'll leave it to the defending champion to comment.
Yeah, I think this is in line with trends we're seeing in the game today. People are really targeting Turkey a lot. That's very much in line with how the meta is in current diplomacy. Center countries are tending to get underappreciated, and thus they have more opportunity to grow. To do well, and England has always had that potential to do strong. I don't think these trends are necessarily going to translate over to the semis. I think because of the way the semis are structured differently, all of this is just going to get thrown out. It's not going to matter at all. We're going to see a whole lot of strong players doing well, and the countries selected aren't really going to matter as much.
Yeah, honestly, I have no idea what the trends are. I've been taking a bit of a break before this tournament, but I agree in the semis. I think this shows anybody has a chance. You're going to have some variation over, this many games, but everybody, each country had a chance to get a high score, at least, one or two in the early rounds. And I think it's going to be players who play a great game are going to make it to the final board, as it should be.
All right. So we've given enough time for people to join in, to look live, but we're going to go through the boards now and see who made which board. So we're going to go to board A. And look who we got here. We got Ewok. So, Jordan, you are covering board A, and are going to tell us about the players. By the way, some of us did more work than others on this, and you might get short shrift, particularly from me. But Jordan went all out. So this is his show. He just tells me when to click next, and I'll do it.
Great. Well, thanks. It is my honor to introduce folks playing on board A and board B. And if my lovely assistant can bring up the next slide, please. Great. So board A. So to set this up, I had a whole team of researchers that reached out to all the players. They each sent me detailed background survey answers, going into depth on who they are, what they're about. I really only have like 30 seconds to talk about each one, so I'm mostly just going to put up some funny pictures and tell jokes. But this is your board, and this is, let's start at the top. Ewok, or Village Idiot, defending champion of the tournament, a 43-year-old software developer from British Columbia. You can see him on your screen.
Got the same jacket on today.
I do.
Same jacket.
Nothing if not consistent in many ways. So when I first started playing Diplomacy, it was about 2013 or so. I went, of course, to the website I was on to look at number one, as you do, and that person is the same guy on the screen here under a different name, but I just think of him that way because he was kind of the number one guy on the first site that I played at. And since that time, he's done nothing but ascend, if that's even possible, from number one. I put as the third bullet, someone you can trust. And I want to explain what I mean by that. He is someone you can trust to win consistently, tournament after tournament. He makes the final board, even in tournaments where he has a huge target on his back, which is most of the time. So for people playing with Ewok, you're in luck. You're going to learn something, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Next slide, please. So this player, I took the liberty of changing his username. I thought the pie snail was ridiculous. I didn't know what it meant. So I changed it to Tick Tick Boom. I hope it's okay that I can do that. 17-year-old student from Ontario. He's been playing about a year and a half. He is a 17-year-old musical theater writer and director, which is fascinating. There can't be a lot of folks like that here. This is a current picture of him that one of my photography crews took. He has been writing a musical about the naming of Rome over the last couple of months, and I'm hopeful that after playing a game with Ewok, his next great musical will be about this board.
I note the Canadian connection right off the bat.
You'll see a few Canadian folks on these two boards. Okay, number two, D. Balling, 50-year-old technical program manager. He's an American, but he's living in Ireland. He's been playing for 35 years, which is ridiculous. And he started out on the IBM PC version long ago. He's not Irish, but he is an actual leprechaun. We confirmed that. Ireland, kind of a funny spot on the board, has been given zero credit if you inhabit Ireland. In fact, you can't even move there. And unlike Switzerland, which actually provides, a bit of a barrier, Ireland is a complete non-entity, not blocking any movement from anywhere. So D. Balling will have a chip on his shoulder for sure.
As an Irishman, I agree. They got Ireland right.
Okay, the next player comes from an actual consequential center on a diplomacy map, Officer DBC from Belgium. Another virtual child, 20 years old, not allowed to drink in the United States, but the drinking age in Belgium, I believe, is 11, so he can drink there. He's been playing for about 5 years, and his advantage is certainly actually knowing the centers that border Belgium, and we'll see how that plays out. But the interplay between D. Balling from Ireland and Officer DBC from Belgium, and the difference those areas have been, the different credit they've been given in the game, it's going to be a backdrop over this entire game, I'm sure.
You think the Belgian-Irish issue is key?
That's my analysis, just based on the research that I've done. Yes. Okay, Wardy CJ, 36-year-old from Chester in the United Kingdom, been playing for 18 years, so solid experience. So Wardy is an actor, and I thought, this is a perfect duo between him and Tick Tick Boom, the recently renamed Tick Tick Boom. I asked Wardy about his singing chops, and he said he's a terrible singer. But my research tells a different story. We uncovered a commercial in which Wardy was paid to sing a song about some kind of Swedish product. This is a close-up picture of him doing that. He sings with conviction. We are hopeful that
but apparently without teeth.
Well, they're in there. You just can't see them because he's really selling it. Anyway, I'm hopeful that Tick Tick Boom will review that footage, and perhaps Wardy will play Ewok in the musical about this board that you'll all get to see soon. So that's Wardy.
I will say he supports Wimbledon Football Club as well. All right, Lex Luthor.
Okay, this picture was taken a few years ago. He's aged since then, but Lex is one of the more controversial players. He is the controversial player in the hobby.
There's only one.
He is a lightning rod of discussion, and he's actually a real person. He's a 49-year-old lawyer and political campaign manager from Flint, Michigan. He's been playing for 29 years. So when he tells you, and he will, that you don't know how to read a board, that's coming from a place of knowledge. He got his start in diplomacy after he stole an original Avalon Hill board from the base library in Fort Meade. So if you are watching this and you are a soldier at Fort Meade and you're looking for that board, you can send me a direct message and we can talk about how to try to get that contraband back. Lex, in addition to being banned in most diplomacy sites and grocery stores, is the only person I know who owns his own custom-made monogrammed diplomacy set, for real. His pieces that he brings with him to tournaments are hot pink, and they are monogrammed EFG for Eric fucking Grinnell. Lex Luthor.
It's going to be a fun board, but it's not over yet.
No,
look at Doogie.
So look, like I said, this is a board of geniuses. Most of them are intelligent things that have nothing to do with diplomacy. This is Animals CS, who qualified for the semis in the prelims. He's 21 years old and he's a PhD chemistry student at Johns Hopkins. That's ridiculous. He's been playing for about 6 years, mostly on Backstabber. I read on his academic profile, he focuses mainly on bioprospecting, metagenomics, and purifying enzymes from bacterial and fungal strains.
Be perfect for working with Village Idiot.
And Ed stole my joke. Exactly. Thank you. I set it up. That's all right. We're a team here. Like Ed says, Animals will be at home working with Ewok and Lex Luthor in particular. So there you go. Those are the 7 players in Board A. It is an intelligent, veering on genius group. A lot of different experience levels. A couple of certainly standouts, but I think it's going to be a fun board. So there you go.
Riaz, I think we should cover how our country is assigned. Do these players know their powers before the game starts?
Nope, completely random, and to be done by the GM.
The GM or the Backstabber interface?
The Backstabber interface will randomly assign.
Okay. And Greg, look, you're going to have to play this game, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but just overall thoughts on the board.
I like it. There's a lot of players in there that I've never had a chance to play before. It's going to be a great opportunity to meet some new, fresh talent. That I always enjoy that. Lex obviously is a fantastic player. He's got many years of experience. He's been on many top boards. I believe he's won Weasel Moot before. So he's a contender. He's a very strong player. It's going to be a very competitive game. I'm looking forward to it.
Riaz, Jordan, predictions. Who's going to win this board?
Safe money's on Ewok.
I go with the defending champ.
Going with Animal CS. I love the guy. I've known him for a few years. So sorry, Greg, but
All good.
Anybody has a chance. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And Morty is an outside shot here. All right. He did well in this tournament. Now, Jordan, we're going to you again in board B. We got Riaz. Woo! Made it. He's an auto qualifier. 90, whoever that is, you'll explain. Andrei Gribikov, a nationally ranked diplomacy player. Grakie, diplomacy linguist. The Flying Boat winner of DixieCon. Oh, he reminds us all the time. And Poser Tom, who's been a finalist 2 times. So why don't you take us through what you think about these players?
Cool. Okay. Board B. So as I'm told, the powers that be at Nexus dispensed with the usual ranking system and seeding system for Group B, and they just put the 7 handsomest men in the hobby on one board. So this is going to be a very, very handsome group. They all got together to take a picture together before the game starts, and it's a very handsome picture, starting with Riaz. Riaz, 44-year-old real estate developer from Vancouver. He is your current Nexus all-around champion, and he was the runner-up last year. So I'm playing about 15 years, mostly non-press games, but obviously he does well in both, and he's learned to play ice hockey. So I don't know, I didn't play last season, but I found it super interesting, the blood feud between Riaz and Ewok that started in the semis and kind of spilled over into the finals. And I thought, what a terrible, terrible strategy to kind of declare this blood feud before it cuts off your options.
You weren't in that semifinal game.
What's
the
that?
blood feud was legitimate.
No, I'm not even saying it was a tactic, but it just seemed like an idiotic thing to do. And then, lo and behold, Ewok and Riaz come out number 1 and 2 on the final board despite that, which I thought was really interesting. And maybe they can speak to it. Perhaps it was, hey, if I have this declared enemy next to me, everybody else feels a little more comfortable because they know where I'm headed. I don't know, but they both managed that incredibly well. And obviously Riaz just barely, didn't win that title, but he did win the all-around title. So definitely somebody to watch, and we'll see what he does. Number 2. So this is another ridiculous handle, 90 kick vesb. I reached out to him to get him more info. He claims he is a 27-year-old actuary from Ohio, but that's what you'd say if you're a catfish. He didn't have a fun fact. So let's speculate wildly about who it is. I am just guessing, and nobody has submitted evidence to prove me wrong on this, that it's probably Doug Moore or Andrew Goff, or it's the two of them playing an account together. And again, nobody has submitted evidence to prove that wrong. I do know his name, 90 KICVESB, is almost certainly Discord asked Doug and Andrew for their username, and they got anxious, and so they pounded their fist down on the keyboard, and those are the keys that came up first. So we'll see how they do catfishing in the semis.
Look at his eyebrow ring.
This is Andre, 1221, 34-year-old lawyer from the Bay Area. He's been playing about 2 years. I am told by my people that he is a big deal.
He's a big deal.
He's a big deal. He's from USSR. He named his puppy Merriweather, which is such an American-sounding name for someone from USSR. So if you're on a board with him, you'll have to ask him about that. But Ed says he's a big deal, so he's definitely one to watch. Grakie, 27-year-old finance guy from Fargo, North Dakota. He's been playing about 6 months, so he is the newest welcome to the hobby player that I'm introducing. And he's obviously off to a fast start, making the semis and Nexus, and we'll see where he goes from there. I feel like he is particularly well situated to endure the icy cold stare from fellow player Riaz, because Greinke spends his free time fishing in negative 30-degree weather in Ontario. So he is ready, and we'll see what he does in the semis. Excited to watch it. Diplomacy linguist. So this guy is super interesting. He didn't respond to my messages. I'm not angry, but my crack team of researchers tracked down.
You didn't understand the language.
So diplomacy linguist is an academic from the University of Maryland, and he published a paper in 2020 about lying in diplomacy. It's called "It Takes Two to Lie, One to Lie and One to Listen." Super interesting paper. He put this data set together where he recruited a bunch of diplomacy players. They played games and they had to code for everything they said, whether it was a lie or whether it was the truth. And every message they received, they had to code whether they thought it was a lie or it was the truth. And then they used that data set to come up with a bunch of conclusions about interpreting lies. So he is armed and ready to play with a lot of these jokers and complete liars who are on his board with him. We'll see how that kind of academic approach transfers, but so far so good. He's made the semis, and certainly an interesting academic. So that's diplomacy linguist. Next, the flying boat, 25-year-old software engineer from the Bay Area. He's been playing a while, about 11 years, and he is pretty active in the virtual community over the last 2 years. I am told he cannot fly and is not a boat. God.
Yeah. So,
you guys know the flying boat.
Karthik Konath, ranked third in the world right now on World Diplomacy Rankings. Very good player.
Jeez.
Who's number one?
Hey, Longhorn. I can't.
Who's number one?
I don't know. But I will tell you this: as a Longhorn, Riaz, I'm probably going to go with the Longhorn here. Sorry, we can't go. We don't trust Canadians down here in Texas. But Poser Tom.
Okay, Poser Tom. So he and I played together a couple of finals ago. He's a 38-year-old nonprofit fundraiser from Portland, Oregon, and a joy of an individual. He's been playing about 24 years. He is one of the rare folks who has qualified for the final in every Nexus season he has entered. So that happened his first 2 seasons, and he's off to a good start here in his 3rd season. Here is an important note. When I played with him, I saw him do an interview before the game, and he looks almost exactly like my law school roommate. And I just assumed that he would be sort of as familiar and jovial and want to, hang out and study with me immediately, but he didn't because he's not my law school roommate. So just kind of an important lesson for those watching. Just because somebody looks like a friend of yours, it's a completely different person. So I hope that's helpful.
Okay, thank you. That's our board B. Well, Riaz, you're on the board. I'll ask you, obviously a bunch of good players. How are you going to approach it?
Well, there's 6 good players in me, so I'm.
So I see how you're going to approach
I'm looking forward to the challenge. I think one of the things I like about this board is there's a lot of West Coasters, so that makes diplomacy a little easier because everybody will be on a similar time schedule, which is kind of nice to have.
Okay, Jordan, Greg, thoughts on the board, predictions? You can say Riaz. He won't be offended.
I have no predictions, but I love this board. This is a very stacked board. There's some great players on this. This is going to be one that I'm going to be watching with a lot of interest to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's so hard to make predictions. A bunch of really, really strong players. I don't know, but very handsome, just generally handsome.
Going to be a very interesting board with a lot of really good players that I know and like, and it'll be fun to watch that go through. So, look, apologies to the other 35 players because neither Riaz, Greg, nor myself did any of this research. We're just going to introduce the boards and give our thoughts. And you can see now why judges put time limits on lawyers, because otherwise, we'd be here all day, Jordan. Okay, board C.
Okay.
Greg.
Yep, this one's me. So I do have some background. I don't have the PowerPoint presentation to go with it, but I can give you some background on all of these players. So the first one up is Tanjian. He's from Germany, two-time previous finalist. He's personally one of my favorite people on Nexus.
He gave you a win. He literally gave you a win. It's hard not to like that guy.
He's also one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's extremely capable. He's a strategic player, reads the boards very well, and has one of the strongest social games you're going to find. Those of us who followed season 6 last summer know for a while there, he was a favorite to win that. Definitely a strong contender. Richard, he placed 16th overall in season 6. So he's one of the people who got a bye. I don't have a ton of personal background on him, but he's got a strong board top as Russia in the preliminaries of season 6 over Power, over our two-time champion. So, I mean, he's got the goods, and he had a shared board top as France. He's rated 12th in Nexus overall as of the last time it was updated in July. So this is clearly a strong player that I know not a lot about. Next up, Alpha Dreadlord. Now, this is the person who came out on top from the preliminaries. He's the #1 guy there. He's a relatively new player. He just started playing in March of 2001, and he's from Northwest England. He's one of the 4th solos that we got out of that first round. I've had a chance to speak with him. He's a very modest player. He credits luck for getting his solo, but just looking at the game, you can tell he's got a knack for tactics and diplomacy. Especially impressive considering in that game he had a Nexus finalist, face-to-face champion, and in his other game he ended with a very impressive 15 center second place. So even second place, he's still doing incredibly well. So this guy is a star in the making. Brigada Abasov. This is a 23-year-old computer science student from Israel with only 10 months of experience under his belt. In the first game, he's board topped in a match against Ed. So you're familiar with him. I'd
already qualified.
He tells me at the moment he's fired up about Gunboat and Press, yet he's yet to be impressed about Gunboat and Leagues, but he's yet to be impressed by Press. So he's optimistic about the semis, turning that around for him.
Ooh, after just playing with Ed, he said that.
So I will say that he played a very strong alliance game. It was good to see, and had very good control over his ally in a dominant position. I think a little bit is going to have to adapt a little bit more to Press because, I would write on Press and a lot of times no writing back, not even a touching base. So that's something everyone goes through, but very good tactically, deserved the board top, and looking forward to seeing how he's going to do, especially his alliance play with, Tanjian's alliance player, but we got some others who are not, one of those being John Anderson. Greg, the VI of this board is John Anderson.
So John Anderson's the next one. He's from Alaska. He's got 1 year experience to player. He's currently a front runner in the Gunboat Leagues. He has been all year long. Well-earned board top in game 10. He tells me he owns a cow.
Okay, this is all wrong. He's the 2020 Weasel Moot winner. He lives in Utah, no matter where he says he's from. and he's a very, very strong player at all levels of diplomacy. Somehow dropped off the virtual scene, but glad to see him back. Don Quixote.
Don Quixote. I don't have a lot of information on him. We didn't manage to connect, but he's had some good success in his game 17. I'm just going to have to wait and see and get some more information about him as we go.
All right. We know anything about Neko?
We do. He's one of our youngest players at age 18, hailing from Italy. Personally, I've learned to fear these young Italian players. He's going to be the next Kudasov. We'll see. He played in season 5 and 6 and is now back for another round. Clearly, his experience is paying off as he's made it to semis.
Okay. Anyone have any thoughts on the board or predictions?
Number one, don't fight over a single center with John Anderson because he'll throw a solo. Number two, he's a really, really good player, and so if I was picking this board, I would probably have him as the odds-on favorite.
I'm still reeling from the shots fired between Ed Sullivan and Brigada. That is an arch nemesis relationship that we're going to have to follow moving forward. Some really good players on the board. I don't know everybody. I'm kind of interested in seeing how Tanjian does in this format with board top advancing, which is just so different than the semis last year. But I know from playing with him, he's a really strong player and a great alliance player. So anyway, that's all I got. Mostly interested in the Ed Brigada dynamic. So maybe if Ed will comment on this, we'll hear some more.
No, I have nothing but respect for Brigada. But what I was going to say about Tanjian is I'm really happy. There were quite a few of you from season 6 finals that sort of during the post-game interviews were like, I'm not going to do this again. You know, like I need a break. I need to be back maybe in a couple of years. Tanj was almost certain he wasn't going to come back, but he came back. Greg, you came back. Only Max Vax. Riaz, you came back. Only Max Vax did not return. I guess Greg, he's still a little bitter. But no one can do what I did, which is to retire Humble from press. I got that going for me. All right, board D, Greg, Philip with 2 L's. You know him well.
All right, board D. This is a fun board. Philip, this is our used car salesman from season 6. One of the more colorful personalities, and he just makes any game that he's in a lot of fun. I think this is going to be a lot of big personalities in this board. He's an out-of-the-box thinker. He's a risk taker and very personable. I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to do well. He wants everybody to know that he's an 8th generation Floridian, something he takes a lot of pride in, and he's also very active in the DC club, trying to get it going. So if you're in Washington, DC area, hit him up. Storm 2K1 this is one of our 2 players who originates from the Seattle area. So it's going to be interesting to see if that leads to an instant connection. He's currently going to school in California and working at Disneyland. Very nice board top in season 6 over EVR and Peter McNamara. So he's coming with some credentials.
Jackson Roberts, who's the son of Dave Roberts from last year.
Oh, interesting.
How about that?
Cool.
Okay, then keep going.
All right. Our very own Jordan, aka Conk, our second participant from the Seattle area. He was 2nd place in round 1 after a solo as Russia. Top player at Play Diplomacy, I think, for the past million years. Top Nexus rating player. Has played in 3 seasons, made to the finals in 3 seasons. 2 of them he was knocked out from. Season 5, he's in 4th place, so I think the trajectory is going right to the top. All right, Michelon, I hope I'm saying that right, comes to us from Genova, Italy, and he's been with Nexus from the very beginning. He's been here since season 1. In the early rounds, he had a very impressive 10-center Italian board top over Power. Claims he plays for Catharsis and claims to be the best of the mid-level players. Those familiar with him from around the forum know him to be also an extremely personable guy. Talking to Humble, he says he's his favorite player to ever play with. He just makes any game fun. So again, a lot of personalities in this game.
Wow, Humble did it to me again with that. All right.
Trig from Belgium. He's a 16-year-old, so another young one who just began playing this past summer. When he's not playing Diplomacy, he's an amateur board game designer and a very nice 11-center board top as England in his preliminary play. Hard Acre. He's from Oxford, England, where he works as an accountant and has 2 years of online diplomacy experience. He's rated 24th after round 1, following a 12-center shared board top. And coincidentally, he's also rated 24th in the press leagues right now. And lastly, the Dogfather. This is another one I wasn't able to get a lot of information on, but he entered in 34th place off our 12-center board top as Turkey.
Don't you think you should have done 2 Gs, a double G on the Dogfather?
I agree.
I think it's a big mistake. Riaz, your your ally turned nemesis, Philip, on board D. Give us your thoughts.
That is a very good board, a very strong and loaded board. And I think the most interesting thing to me is, and maybe this is a prediction, Ed, that you can make, is who are the players going to like more? Are they going to like Philip more? Or are they going to like Jordan more? Because they're both really personable, kind players.
Well, I'm not sure Jordan is Conk. Jordan, are you in this game? Did you return under a third name?
So I don't know what you're talking about. I'm Jordan. That's me. Yes, I'm playing in the game. I feel like Conk, it's so juvenile. So this is a rebranding. It's not a disguise. That's me. Yes, I'm going to be playing in this game. And I don't remember playing with any of these folks. So I'm excited to meet them and see where it goes. I'm excited to hear Greg say that some of them are fun. And I'm excited that Storm or Jackson works at the happiest place on earth. That's how Ed has described any board with me in the past. So I feel like it's a good match.
Anyone who knows me knows I'm a sucker essentially for Jordan's play. Greg especially, who's called it out in public.
Yeah.
But Philip, I fear for Philip a bit on this board. I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think he's like a young Ed Sullivan a little bit. And man, every time I play with Conk seems to do better. So come on, Philip. But I think the two of you will get along swimmingly. Very similar personality styles.
Well, bring it on. Excited about it.
All right. I'm not going to make predictions on this board. We'll just go to my board, which I'm pretty excited to talk about, even though I haven't done any research or looked at anyone's games. I know we have Dave Roberts, who is the father of Jackson from board D, who was last year's season 6 finalist, along with Riaz, who played with him, as well as Villagidia, who played with him. And I don't think I'm going to go out on a limb and say he is the gentleman and nicest person you're just going to meet in diplomacy. Although Tanjian and Riaz give you a run for the money, I think Dave Roberts just a super gentleman. Then I'm pretty sure from my interview is Babo Natal, a 2-time finalist from Italy. He's given interviews, at least one large interview on the Diplomats, and obviously one of the Nexus gurus. So a experienced player, although for some reason he and Humble do not get along over some longstanding rivalry of the season 1 finals, which I've never reviewed. And every time Humble starts talking about it, I just tend to cut that from the Diplomats. Then we go to Paula. I'm his Care Bear, right? I gifted him the season 2 win for Nexus season 2 winner, but he backed it up the next year, winning season 3, the only 2-time winner of the Nexus main event from Argentina. Extraordinarily controversial player in the sense that he bonds with some people, do not bond with others, will claw his way and get that next center. Bam 47, no idea how you are. Finished 9th, so you're probably pretty good. Diplo Tom, don't know you. 17th, so just twice as bad as Bam. Krill is Matt Krill from Seattle, top diplomacy player, face-to-face, virtually, and I guess now an extended deadline. Also maybe up for gentleman of the diplomacy hobby. He's such a great guy. He's personally building diplomacy sets right now, which by Wood, which are looking awesome. And Super Warity, who was a very highly ranked player on the Nexus tournament scene. I think he just won the latest Cold War version. He's a season 2 finalist playing Germany in that. And from Europe, incredibly talented tactical player and has been in speedboat finals. It's a good board. The players who want to play to win. The thing I want to look out for is there was a little bit of an alliance there between Pallet and Super Werty in season 2. We'll see if that continues or not, as these things sometimes have a way of changing. Any thoughts, fellas?
I've got a couple. I mean, if you follow the World Cup of soccer, there's always a group of death, and they always talk about a group of death being like a really stacked group. I would say that this would probably be the most stacked group of or board of all of them, and it's got a lot of impressive names.
Totally agree. A bunch of well-known players here. I'll put a word in for Bam47. I played with him in the prelims, I think twice. Really strong communicator, really strong player. Likes Ed a little too much for my taste, but I just found him to be one of the best communicators I played with. And I've heard about just about everybody, so it's definitely a strong board.
I've slandered Bam47. I do know Bam. You reminded me, Jordan, that I do know Bam. Only because I don't, as you guys know, I don't really do a lot of research, just play it as it comes. He was the Italy to my Austria in game 16. And I swear I thought he was Village Idiot with his communication style and the way he reads the board. He's a very strong player. I wrote him a note after the game just to tell him that I was very impressed with how he read the board and how he saw things. And you're right. This is going to be a very difficult board. Poor Diplo Tom. I really don't know you. No chance.
That's 4 former Nexus finalists. That's the most stacked board so far.
All right. Well, you haven't seen my board. Okay, board F.
All right, I'll take it from here. Thanks, Ed, on this one. We've got Pez Demer. We all know how good a player David is.
Former winner.
Former winner, very, very decorated player from Italy. He was a finalist last year, and he was probably Greg's first victim in the game. He's a fantastic tactician, and Ed, I'm sure you would agree, playing speedboat with this guy, it's almost impossible to outguess him. And Jordan, you'd know this as well. Like, I can't outguess that guy. In fact, I actually need to have 2 or 3 other people help me take him out. He's
super annoying. Super annoying. Agreed.
He wins every coin flip. I don't know how this happens. You should go to Vegas.
He is. He's an incredible player. David's happily married with 3 kids. And he's a triathlete. So he likes to compete in triathlon. He's taken a break for a bit. But that's his thing. That's his other passion other than diplomacy. Then we've got Tarsier, who is also a top 21 finisher from last year. He is actually 47 years old, married with 5 kids, lives in Missouri. He's a high school principal, so if there's somebody who kind of needs to sort the board out, he'd probably be the one to put everybody in a corner or do whatever principals do these days. And he actually claims that he taught Ewok how to stab. So I don't know if that's the case, Greg, but he's got a whole story about stabbing you and how he was the one that turned you to the dark side.
That's absolutely true.
Is it true?
That is true.
Okay. And then we've got Messi here, and Messi is he soloed his in game 4 as England. It was a really, really impressive performance on his end, and he's quite adept at picking up dots, like his namesake is at scoring goals. Messi's a really, really good player. The next one, and I apologize if I've mispronounced this, it's Suanu. And unfortunately, I didn't get very much information from him. We weren't able to connect, but he topped one of his boards, and that was board 18 as France. It was a very, very well played game. And then there's Goldfinger. Goldfinger is actually a pretty interesting character. He had 2 tops. One was a shared top, and one was a sole board top. He's from the DC area. He likens himself to a famous Bond character who those of us of a certain age may know quite well, Goldfinger. He's been playing online for over a decade. And another interesting fact about this gentleman is that he actually played on the longest diplomacy game ever. And I'm not saying this incorrectly. The game lasted until the year 2005. So that's 104 or 105 game years. He is no stranger to games that take a long time and the patience that it's required towards it. Next is Sabi. I really like playing with Sabi. Sabi is a 28-year-old accountant from Chicago. Sabi topped game 23 as England. They did a really, really good job. Sabi is a very loyal Alliance player, and Sabi enjoys traveling to face-to-face tourneys. In fact, they're looking forward to some of the ones on the circuit this year, and it's going to be traveling to those. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to meet Sabi at one of those this year. And lastly is Zero Tolerance. Again, unfortunately, somebody that I was not able to connect with online. But Zero Tolerance had some good draws, some good spots in game 9 and game 17.
Well, I think the story of this board is, which, I mean, everyone here and everyone watching knows the controversy between Pez and Sabi. We'll see if that carries out onto the board itself. But I watched Messi's solo. I thought it was extremely impressive. And then there's a great YouTube video put up by Marcus. I think it was Marcus. Anyways, on that longest game ever played. It was fascinating. Thoughts by any of y'all? You're on mute, Jordan, which is where you should be, but I'll let you unmute for a second.
Yeah, interesting board. I'm interested to see if this blood feud goes the way of Ewok and Riaz, that the two are able to kind of make other friends or even work together. I've run up against a couple of these folks. Tarsier is a favorite of mine from Play Diplomacy. Goldfinger, I just remember one game we were playing Public Press, and we were neighbors, and he was crushing me, and I had to turn him. And so it was Public Press, so we're writing, everything in public, and it was like close to bedtime for me. I put the kids home, and I'm just relentlessly trying to turn Goldfinger on Public Press to work with me. And it was like 10 minutes, 5 minutes before the deadline, and I'm just pounding away at my keyboard. My wife thinks I'm going crazy. And like at the last minute, he switched over to my side kind of publicly, and it was just this incredible relief. I just have this moment like ingrained into my mind. So if you're getting attacked by Goldfinger, don't let up. He doesn't mind a lot of press. He can be swayed by logic. And thank you for turning over to my side, Goldfinger, in that one game, gosh, like years and years ago. Bunch of good players. It'll be certainly one to watch.
Gregory, any thoughts?
This is a great lineup. I'm a big fan of Tarsier as well. It's absolutely true. He was a person who taught me the cold, hard truth about diplomacy, and anybody in this room that I've stabbed before, it's all because it all goes back to him. So you can blame him. He's
stabbed all of us, Greg.
Yeah. Tarsier's fault. My favorite story about him is we had a high-profile game over on Web Diplomacy once. He was Turkey, got knocked all the way down to a single center, and somehow fought his way back to solo that game. It was mind-blowing. One of my favorite games I've ever seen. I will put money on this guy in any game he's ever in.
Okay, so I have one comment, one question for Riaz. The comment is, people should watch Pez's multiple interviews. The one when he, I think when he won, I can't remember which season it was, maybe 4 for Nexus main event, but also last year he gives a very good idea of his thinking of the game. And he thinks of it differently, but completely logically than a lot of people do. And then Riaz, I know, that Pez ultimately work through the math with you on the seating. And no one can say Pez did himself any favors, because I don't know how this worked, but the 4th, 6th, and 8th best players in the prelims somehow ended up on this board.
It's the conflict resolutions. That's the problem. Was there was a lot of overlap between players, and it became very, very tricky when there were subs involved, because now all of a sudden you're not looking at 2 games of potential overlap. You're looking at 3, and so there was 1 or 2 boards. So specifically, I could say board number 22, where there were a lot of subs and a lot of those players actually advanced, and it just created a nightmare. I tried several times to make the boards work, and I thought I finally had it, and then Pez said, "Well, you missed this board number 22 on this gentleman's sheet, so we had to start over." And I said, "All right, well, you do it."
Sure,
but I got to say, like Pet, like, you know, the thing. It seems like the overall comments were pretty positive for the prelims, but Pez was a really huge part of that, and I'm so appreciative for the hard work he did. Sometimes I'd wake up and I'd go to try to update scoreboards, and he'd already done it, or he'd already posted maps, or it was really a pleasure working with him on this. He was a great help.
All right, let's go to board G. I hope I thought I made it, so I haven't seen this.
There is no board G. I'm sorry, we don't really have a place for you, Ed.
I was hoping for a GHG board. All right, here we go. Board G.
This board looks like it's going to be a fun board. There's a lot of really fun players and who probably know each other fairly well. We'll start out with Pixie or Andrew. Andrew's he was a top 21 performer in S6. He's a real student of the game. He loves to follow games afterwards, dissect them, and sometimes you'll even see him comment on certain games on a YouTube channel. So when you're looking at a real student of the game and somebody who really likes to study the tactics, Andrew is certainly one of those types of guys, and really a really nice guy. He's 27. He's from Seattle, Washington. So I'm not sure if you've ever run into him, Jordan, but maybe one day might be somebody worth meeting. He grew up in Boston, which I won't hold against him because he's such a nice guy. But he's a software engineer. He started playing in college, so he's been playing for a few years. And he's actually the speedboat champ for the November-December season, the last season of there being one unified Nexus. Then we've got Jovanovski. He was again a top 21 from last year. Jovanovski or Andre, he's from Lisbon, Portugal, and he's 36. He's got a daughter. He's a CAD engineer. He started playing in 2014, actually after reading that Grantland article. I don't know if you've all had a chance to read it, but it's actually pretty interesting, and I think it actually brought new players to the hobby and good players.
You can Google it. It's called the board game for the alpha nerds, or something like that. Yeah, diplomas.
You got it. And he actually enjoys both press and virtual face-to-face. And at DixieCon 2020, he was the Player's Choice Award winner. He made the Nexus Gunboat Finals, I believe, in season 1 of Nexus Gunboat. So he definitely knows what he's doing tactically. We've got Tortoloni, who had 2 board tops, 2 very impressive board tops. His name's Evan, and Evan is a college student. He's studying cybersecurity. He also likes to play Spy in Team Fortress 2, and he says he likes dots.
Keep my eye on that
guy. and then this next guy, like I really had a hard time getting to find information about him. Like, who is this guy? Like, he had a board top in Game 16, which was really impressive because it was an AIR that turned into an IR, and I thought Ed was done for. I was the GM. I thought there's no chance that this guy's going to come back. And sure enough, he actually tops the board impressively. Ed is a lawyer from Texas. He's here with us now, thankfully. not only does Ed have a real passion for the game of diplomacy itself and enjoy the game, but he also has a passion for helping other people enjoy the game and doing service to the game by doing things like this and running the diplomats. For those of you who don't know, and sorry, Ed, to paint a target on your back, but I had to say it, you're the top ranked player in virtual face-to-face. And there's a reason for that. You know, you don't suck. Like you keep saying you suck, but you certainly don't suck. You're a very, very good player and a real ambassador for the game.
I'm the Fredo of diplomacy, but I'll take it. Keep going.
All right. Farron, we've got Farron here. Farron had a shared board top as a super sub. So her substituting into a game really benefited her and her opportunity to advance. She's based out of Austin, Texas. She's an Army officer. So now we've got 2 Texans on this board. She started playing in late 2020, so she's relatively new to the game. But for those of you who follow virtual face-to-face events or play in them, she's a perennial contender. She's a threat always to go to the top board and to win. Really, really good player. Captain Cleo is somebody that unfortunately I was not able to connect with in this period of time. But Captain Cleo topped as France. It was actually game number 1, and it was a Western triple that just basically lasted until the last year or two. It was actually fascinating to watch because I don't normally see a Western triple run that long. And lastly, but certainly not least, is Tara Kashka. Tara Kashka had a shared board top as France. Tara Kashka, actual name is Ilya. It's from New York, 40 years old. Senior manager for information information provider for health insurance, and a very strong tactician. Ilya was the winner of the gunboat tourney, and it had a lot of really good names in the finals there. And he prevailed. Very, very good, very strong player. So it's going to be a fun and exciting board with a lot of people who know what they're doing.
Jordan, Greg, thoughts?
I'm getting hit by the irony that in this broadcast, there are 3 very good players from Cascadia, but the Cascadia champion is a Texan.
Okay, so first of all, Jordan subbed in, and his shenanigans had something to do with me board topping is at Austria, which was helpful. I look forward to playing this board. I've played with some of these players, and I have not played with others, and I have a really long-standing, seemingly endless Hatfields and McCoy-like feud with Farron. And I'm just here to say that, look, the battle's over. I got the white flag. I give up. You win. Just can we treat each other hopefully with as if we were brand new players and didn't know each other with open arms and see how it goes. That's what I'd like to do. And look forward to playing. Should be a fun game. Okay. Overall, these are what the boards look like. Riaz, I assume you will post something like this or invitations will go out. When do these games start?
The games will start, most likely we'll start getting invitations this weekend. And we're hoping to launch all of the games very early next week, Monday, Tuesday, and then start the kickoff.
Okay. All right. Well, look, thanks to the 3 of you for spending your day in the middle of the day to come talk about a board game that only 1,000 people in the world play. We are very interested to talk about these 49 players. Feel free to give us information about them if you want in the comments. And I look forward to calling the finals with the 3 of you in it. It'll be very much fun to do so. Gentlemen, closing thoughts before we sign off. We are basically right at an hour, despite Jordan.
I'll just say, after reaching out to 14 players and getting a little background, I was just completely blown away by the diverse interests and talents of people who play diplomacy. I thought it was a bunch of idiots in their basement or attic like me. But honestly, just skills and talents and ridiculous interests all across the board. So looking forward to getting to know people I'm playing with a little better, and certainly says good things about the hobby, the people I met and talked about anyway.
Gotta say something, Greg. You can't Warsaw hold.
I'm excited about this. This is a lot of great boards. Kudos to Riaz for setting this up to get to this point. I like the way the semifinals are set up this year with the one person from each board going. It's going to be a very cutthroat semis, which is not exactly something we saw last season. So this is going to be dog eat dog, and we're going to have some very interesting people coming out of this. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this is going to go.
Riaz, final thoughts on your great tournament so far?
Final thoughts are prelims went really well based on feedback. If anybody has more feedback, please let us know for whomever is going to be looking after it next year. Other than that, I'm looking forward to seeing who advances. Every board is competitive, and it's one and done in the semifinals. So, everybody should bring their A games.
All right. So thanks to the three of you, and we will be saying goodbye for the diplomats. Have a great afternoon, and hope people enjoyed this.
Thank you.